Otakuology podcast with Otaku Mike and Jin Graves.
Hey guys, what's up? Jin here, back with another episode of the Otakuology podcast. Some may say best podcast in the world, right?
Some might say that. Some might say we're the tenacious D of podcasters.
Right? And with me, as always, my heterosexual life partner,
Otaku Mike.
Otaku Mike.
And with me as always is Jin motherfucking Graves.
Oh my gosh. Don't tell people that. I don't think I need people's mothers.
Why?
Not their mothers. I don't think I need people being mad about me hooking up with their mothers.
What's wrong with moms? Moms are awesome.
I know that, but do you think people want to call me dad?
Maybe. You never know.
You made me think of something stupid. Well, there was that one person that called me Daddy Grace.
Oh boy.
Jesus Christ.
Oh man. Anyways, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about Delicious in Dungeon.
We're continuing on our adventure through the dungeon that just keeps on giving.
In the dungeon.
Yeah, buddy.
So, today, if you're tuning in, we're covering episodes 5 and 6.
We are.
So this one was actually, I feel like, a pretty fun one, this first episode.
I have things to talk about this episode, but when we get into it, when our thoughts about it, I'll kind of talk about it more.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this one started out, there's another party that they're introducing us to. We're not exactly sure a lot about this other party. But
we do know that the leader is named Kabru.
Right.
Yeah.
And he seems like an Arabian Laios to me.
I would say that, yeah.
To me, that's what I feel like.
Laios-esque.
Yes. And so his party is at the tavern eating. They're planning on going down, and they end up hitting like the jackpot.
Yeah, because they were fighting like zombies or something, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and they found like a treasure chest of money. And everything was pretty hunky-dory until
it just skips time, right?
Yeah, it skips back to like Laios's party. And they come forward and they find all these people.
They're all
Marcel, dead. Yeah, they're all dead. Marcel
they're all dead.
Blesses them so they won't be possessed.
And there's all this gold and stuff around them.
Right. And it's pretty weird. Which I can't remember how he said it, but we finally do get the part of the living armor that comes out from Laios' sword, which is one of my favorite parts. Chilchuck goes to touch one of these coins, and Laios' sword starts like freaking out.
Oh yeah, he like starts to warn Laios.
Yeah,
about like some danger of some kind.
So he decides that he's going to name him everything after this event. But in that whole thing, Chilchuck, I think, does kind of like nudge one of the coins, and we find out
he picks it up.
And then it activated?
Yeah, he picks it up, but I think it activates.
Okay, because I thought it was still on the floor the first time.
It could have. I don't really remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
He does something with the coin.
Yeah. And so we have a few different things that are here. We have metal coins that look like, metal coins that are actually like beetles. We have
centipedes that look like pearls.
Yeah, look like a string of pearls, and we have basically these other little like bugs that look like gems.
Yeah.
And then a few other ones that look like a crown and like a pendant and some other stuff like that. These are all treasure bugs. And
Can I just say when the bugs showed up,
yeah,
it freaked me the fuck out. Like I was like, oh my god, like just gave me the fucking heebie-jeebies. Like bad. I was like,
oh my god.
it's just like the way they like
Well,
animated them and stuff, and we find out
yeah,
like later on, like these bugs killed the party that had them
right, yeah,
because they were like mixed in, or they were in like a jewelry box or a treasure chest.
right.
Yeah,
And it was weird because they didn't. Whenever they picked them up, they didn't instantly get activated. So
no,
I mean, that was kind of weird though. On
yeah,
that part. Um,
and they ended up like stunning them. I think, right?
they did, yeah, because Marcel doesn't like bugs, which I really enjoy that about Marcel's character. She's pretty true on like the scaredness of like everybody else in the world that doesn't like bugs. Like she's pretty true to herself.
I have to agree as well, and I think as of right now, and like the way each character has interacted with the party, I really feel like I'm leaning towards like Marcel being my favorite character in the series so far.
Yeah. Do you feel like Marcel is that way because y'all are so alike?
I would say kind of, and I would say like she's very much like if an average person
Yeah.
was like, I would say like in this world.
Yeah.
Like she does have like experience and like knowledge and stuff. But like if you took an average person and threw them in the dungeon, the Delicious Dungeon world, I feel like that's how Marcel or that person would act
Yeah.
in a
Well,
sense.
and see, I feel like Chilchuck, this is his first one where it was almost that breakthrough aha moment
Yeah.
because, he has kind of like gotten over that, oh man, are we going to eat these? And he's skeptical about eating stuff, but like not like eating it is like not
Yeah.
a thing for him anymore. Because
I
before
did
he's
he
like,
they did say, or Chilchuck did say at one point that he has actually eaten like the coin bugs or something before, but they
yes,
didn't taste as good.
they didn't taste as good because they were uh raised in captivity.
Yeah, since she is like, oh, well, they always taste better when they're in the dungeon, you know.
And the lower
I,
you
d-
go, the
I
better
don't
they
know
are.
why I just did a like an '80s like Billy Batson voice.
Because that's kind of what Senshi sounds like.
He's like, oh, yeah, this is what we're talking
Yeah.
about. You see?
But you see what I'm saying? Like how Chilchuck is getting away from like
Yeah,
him and Marcel were like almost the same character in the sense of like, oh my god, we're gonna eat that. And now Chilchuck's just kind of skeptical, like, what's it gonna taste like?
and like
So
since she starts to like sort out the bugs, and they think that they're like they're sorting out the good bugs versus like the bad bugs or something
yeah, like if they're poisonous or something.
to prepare. And I have to say, this scene coming up is probably one of the funniest scenes in the series so far.
Yeah,
Where like he's like, oh, I got these, like preparing them and like frying them up and stuff, and which is really interesting to see. Like him, like he makes like a weird bug jelly burger to give to Laios at one point, which I
yeah.
was like, I don't know about that, but okay, because I mean, we people eat bugs in the real world, so but I
And it
get
doesn't even look like that.
doesn't
Yeah,
even look like that. It looks like a
because
multicolored sloppy Joe.
yeah, because that looked like somebody almost took like a jelly filled donut
Yes,
and threw gemstones into it.
yeah,
I
and
mean, like, and
yeah.
and the weird thing is, I was waiting for like him eating it. I was imagining it almost to be like rock candy.
Oh
I was like,
yeah, yeah.
he's gonna chew that, and we're gonna hear a crunch, and there was never a crunch, and I was like,
No,
that's really
and
weird. Like, what
we
would that really be like?
we get this point where like Senshi he's like prepared all this stuff for them and whatnot, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you can get rid of that other stuff. We don't need those." And they're like, "Oh, why are they poisonous?" And
After they drop it over the
yes,
ledge,
he's like, "Oh no, you can't eat those. You'll break your teeth." And he's
that's
like,
real treasure.
"It's real treasure." And they just drop it over the edge of the like whatever floor they're on, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh shit! Like, what did we just do?"
Why didn't you say that sooner?
I mean, yeah, which was really really funny. I have to say,
Yeah.
like that scene like made me like laugh so hard because like
Right.
since she is very much like the info dump character when it comes to like monsters and like lore and stuff like that, and
He is, yeah.
like he said, "Oh, don't eat it," but he never said like or I guess maybe since she doesn't value that stuff as much as say like the other characters would.
Right, right,
His value and his valuable stuff is more like the food that he gets to
right,
eat and prepare.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
His is more like a farmer growing his own crops versus like
Yeah. Or a
being
hunter.
able to buy something more.
Or like a hunter hunting a deer or something.
Yeah. He does really remind me almost as like kind of Goblin Slayer in a way,
Uh
on that he has like really cheap tools and really cheap weapons and everything,
yeah.
but like they're good. You know what I'm saying? Like
Uh-huh.
probably his best thing is his walk.
Yeah.
Like it's ancient dwarven metal. So
And we move on from here and we find out that there's a lot of ghosts in this part of the dungeon.
yes,
And like Laios is like, "Oh, why don't you like do you perform like a protection spell for us, you know,
Marcel.
Marcel?" And she's like, "Oh, I can't do that. Is it Fearin? What was her name?
Yeah, Farron.
Farron. I don't know if I said Fearin.
Right.
Fearin is the other manga with the elf in it. Fearin or
Oh,
Farron.
Farron.
Farron, yeah,
Yeah.
Farron. Um, is like, oh, she's the one who did that, and like none of the spells she does are like simple. They're all like real like high class, high level
Fallon.
spells. Fallon,
Fallon. Yeah.
Fallon. Okay, I was totally off base. Fallon. Well, we never really see her in the anime, so that's why I don't
No,
remember her
you
name.
got to see her like the first like 5 seconds of her getting eaten by the red dragon.
Yeah, yeah,
That was it.
definitely, yeah. And which is really interesting to see,
We get
like
backstory.
we get backstory and but like how different like they expect Marcel to like just go into this role that Fallon was in, but she's not that kind of like mage.
She's not as advanced.
Yeah, she likes
Um,
exploding magic.
like, well, like how Fallon was able to do that is because she was able to like know so much magic and all that. And for Marcel, she can't remember it as much,
Yeah,
and so
I love it that she
that was
just
a problem.
relies on like explosion. Like that's her go-to magical spell is explosion.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really weird too, like getting that little snippet of how like we've been with Laos,
Hmm.
for at this point just 5 episodes,
Yeah.
and seeing this little clip of how like Fallon is, and like between her and how Laos are like almost completely different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, it's really funny in that regards because I mean I wouldn't put them to be siblings at all.
Yeah, you wouldn't really think of like their siblings, I guess. I mean, but I mean, siblings are allowed to be different.
Yeah, but I mean they're like worlds apart. That's the other thing though. Like
But ghosts end up showing up.
especially seeing like how caring she was whenever she's like, I don't want to
Yeah.
hurt the ghosts.
Yeah, and the ghosts end up showing up, and they're like, "Oh, well, we get like a flashback with like the original crew, original party, and
Yeah.
they're adventuring, or whatever, and they find this dead adventurer, and they're gonna like kill it because it's a zombie. And
Yeah.
Fallon just like goes up and hugs it and like does a spell on it. She's not really a violence type of person.
No, and she just said, "Be at peace,"
Yeah, be at peace.
and the ghost just left, and I think then they put a protection spell on the body and moved it over
Yeah,
the side for somebody to take it up.
which I thought that was a really cool scene of
Yeah.
like seeing like the spirit just leave the body and stuff, and like a very it wasn't like your
Well,
normal.
you know what I really want to see? They keep talking about these people, the corpse collectors.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, when are we going to see those people?
Oh,
And
I don't
how do
know.
they get around the dungeon? You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
maybe they come and clean it up
And then
afterwards.
and then the weird thing is like we've been traveling with Senshi so long and knowing like how much Senshi does, like he cleans up the bathrooms, he does all this other stuff. You're
Yeah.
like, what exactly do the corpse collectors do? You know?
Maybe they
Like,
just clean up like the dead bodies, like the monster dead bodies and stuff like that.
I have no idea.
Yeah. But we end up seeing ghosts come along and attack him. And I love this scene where they're all running for their lives and stuff. And I love this scene where they stop at like a stairwell. And since she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna make some holy water." And they're like,
Uh
"What?"
so back up just a little bit.
Okay.
So this is also one of my favorite parts, why they're running away.
Uh-huh.
And Laios is eating one of
Oh, the burgers.
those gym buns, yeah,
Yeah.
and drops it, and then turns around. The ghost is like right there and starts freezing him.
Yeah.
I mean, it shows Laos's dedication for food because he was like,
Yeah.
he was like Poppy from Trolls,
Yeah.
no troll left behind, but he's like, no buns left behind.
But I also love the scene, like right in that scene, where like Leos is like getting froze, and then like Marcel shows like points her staff at the ghost right next to Leos's ear, and just a small little detail of like him like wincing and be like, "Ow, my ear!" Like almost like a gunshot went off.
Yeah,
When she does the spell, which is I love that little detail, like a little detail like that is really cool.
right.
But like I
And
said,
then
they're running for them from the ghosts. They
yeah,
can't really defeat them because they don't have the proper magic to defeat them. And then Senshi goes to make holy
holy
water.
water. Yeah,
Holy water, yeah. And they're like, "What? You're a cleric as well? Like, how can you be a cleric too?" And he makes some holy water and he puts it in like a jar. And they're like, "What are you doing?" And he ties it to like a rope and he starts swinging it around. And I love this little scene where he's swinging it around. It's very comical. He's like, "Ha ha ha ha!" Like it's not
yeah,
like a normal action scene. And he's like hitting the ghost, and it's working because the ghosts end up passing through the jar and hitting the holy water.
right.
Which I was like, "Oh, I never would have thought of that." That's really interesting to think about.
Yeah. Well, and then him making it is like all just like these weird things, and you're like,
Yeah.
and as he's telling you like what he's putting in, and you're like, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, yeah. And then you're like, wait, how's that gonna work? And then he starts sealing it up because in every video game or anything with holy
Yeah.
water, you always see people throw it on other stuff. So for him to seal it up and kind of use it almost like,
A mace.
well, I would even say what it reminded me of is like a chain part of a kunai,
Yeah.
um, or like martial arts that use the big springy dart. I mean, that's kind of what
Oh
it
yeah.
seemed like.
Yeah.
And it almost looked like he was dancing for a little while.
Yeah.
Like,
Because he was like swinging it over his head and stuff like that. And they're like all shocked and like, "Oh my god, like it's working."
yeah,
And I love the like end of this episode where it because the ghosts are passing through it, it ends up like cooling the holy water, and they
yeah.
make like a I don't remember
They
what it was called. It's like ice cream they make.
they make sherbet,
Sherbet, yeah. And so they all stop to eat ice cream.
right? I think they called it sorbet.
So yeah, sorbet, that's what it was, yeah.
Yeah, but it's just sherbet, and they use part of the the gem bugs that they still had and all of it. And I
Yeah.
mean, we get like this really pretty color of this
Yeah.
sherbet. It reminds me of rainbow sherbet as a kid.
Yeah. And that's kind of where the episode ends, you know. But I have a little nitpick with
Okay.
the show at this point. So, one, we start out with this whole new character, which I don't know if this character comes back later on or what.
You need a
The
spoiler?
huh?
You need a spoiler?
Does he come back?
Yeah, he comes back.
Okay, he comes back. Because my nitpick was this guy, Kabru, whatever his name is. He's in the fucking intro to
Yeah.
the show. And I was like, are they just throwing this character out there and like just not having him around? Like why
No,
is he in the
I
intro?
mean, it's as awkward as you're thinking.
Like
Yes,
like it's not he's not important, obviously, but he's important enough to be in the fucking trailer. Like it threw me for a loop. Like definitely
yeah,
I would say it threw me for a loop and it pulled the rug out from under me with like the tropes and stuff in this particular episode of having starting with some new characters and then the character died
right.
and whatnot, you know. So that was my little nitpick. I was like, I don't know, but apparently you telling me he comes back.
Yes, yeah. We'll see all those characters back, and then the flashback of the original party.
Uh huh.
We will see those other characters back as well.
And I know he's going to be a character, this other character that we see in the flashback, but he's also in um, the intro is the samurai guy,
Yeah,
and I'm like, can this guy be any more out of place, like within the world of like a medieval fantasy setting?
right,
He's just so
right,
fucking out of place.
right.
Like I'm like, where the fuck did you come from?
No, there are some characters that I feel like are like that. Like they came from a distant island or something like that, and they're in there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Um, which uh, I don't know why that's kind of a trope. Like because like if you think about like is it wrong to pick up a girl in a dungeon?
uh huh.
Like there's samurai type and ninja type people there too. You
Okay.
know, one of our other favorites, Rising of the Shield
Yeah, I was
Hero.
gonna say Shield Hero.
There's ones like that in there as well. So I mean, we get all these weird ones where it's like, all right, so we're not just medieval anymore. We're not like just fantasy. We're also like Japanese fantasy,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's always just kind of weird that it's there,
Which
even though
it still throws me off that they're using chopsticks in a medieval world.
right, yeah.
Like it just throws me off altogether.
And I think that's one of the things that make kind of Delicious and Dungeon unique. In that is that there's still that happy medium, but it's also like it's always there, even though we
Yeah,
get
yeah,
a character that seems out of place, like the samurai
yeah. No, totally. I get it. I get it. But like that really threw me off was they introduce this new guy, introduce him, and he dies within the first 5 minutes of the show.
guy. Yes.
It never crossed my mind that he would get resurrected, I'm guessing.
Oh, you're like he's just down for the count. He's
Yeah, he's
out.
just down for the count. He's just dead.
Yeah.
So,
Whole party just dead.
just dead. Which I was
Yeah.
like, oh, well played, anime. Well played. Like, you got some balls to just kill people off like that, you know?
You're like, you got my hopes up. You
You
got
got,
my
you got,
hopes up.
you got my hopes up. You got me interested. Like,
Yeah.
okay, anything's fair game now, you know?
Right. So I will say those characters and the other characters from the original party of
Yeah,
Laios, that is one of my little gripes with the show is that they put so much value in them, like they do a lot, and especially like not only in that, but also Fallon. Fallon, they put a lot of stuff on her as well. When like reading through the books, it almost seems like those characters aren't really even that involved.
Yeah, it's mostly like the
So
core, like 4.
yeah. So I mean,
Yeah.
that's one of my kind of like little gripes with all of that is it just doesn't seem like those characters are very around very much.
Yeah, yeah,
And so like even like with the opening of the show, like we have the whole thing where it's Laios on one side and Fallon on the other,
yeah.
and it's like, but she's not even like that big of a character role in the manga, it seems like. So for them to kind of put emphasis on part of these other characters, that's probably my little gripe, is because
Mm-hmm.
I think the show does a good job of making it seem like they're around more
Yeah,
than they're not.
yeah. 'Cause she's in the stomach of a dragon at this point.
Right, right.
Yeah. But let's move on. Are we doing a rate this one? Rate this episode? Or do
Um,
you want to wait?
I mean, we can wait. Just do it overall.
Okay, okay. So moving on, moving on. The ghosts are defeated and whatnot.
Yep. Our next one is called the Court Cuisine.
Yeah.
Is our little snippet.
Is that's what it's called?
Yeah.
Okay. And so
Which this is something I'll give you a slight spoiler when we get into it,
uh-huh.
and you'll kind of go, "Oh, okay,"
Well, I have questions with this one as well.
I figured as much.
And this one, because it goes back to that. We can get into it. So this one, they end up going through I think they're on the same floor, right? As in the dungeon, right?
I think they went down the stairs.
Okay, okay. So, and they go into this room, and it's a very like big room. It's like a dining area, and nobody's been there for a while.
There's
And
pictures
there's
everywhere.
pictures everywhere, and one of the pictures is of this woman, and the picture comes to life, and we find out that they're living paintings. And Laios almost gets sucked into one, and he gets the fucking bright idea that he's gonna jump into the pictures, eat all the food, and bring food out of the pictures because apparently the living pictures have like
A
is
food
it like
supply.
an unlimited food supply, and like is it like a dimension? Is that what it is?
Like a spot in time.
Okay, okay, gotcha.
So like the first one we jump through, and it's this baby is born.
Which I don't remember what the baby's name is.
Like Delroy or Deldroy or something like that.
I think it's Delroy.
Something with a D.
Gal? Is that what his
Maybe.
name is?
Maybe.
I don't
I mean,
know.
it sounds right.
He's like the prince.
Yeah, he's the baby prince that is born on this day, and I think they're
Uh-huh.
doing like his christening or something.
Yeah.
And Leos gets this whole thing. He's like, with this stuff going on, I just couldn't eat.
Yeah.
Like he's picky. And we get the king and the queen, and then there's this little like elf boy that's there too.
It's a dark elf, right?
Yeah, it's a dark elf.
Yeah.
And then he comes back out and says, well, just the mood wasn't right to eat. So he goes into another one.
Which I have a point I like to put out. Because the next one he jumps into, there's like a party. And it's like the party to for the king
It's the king's wedding.
Okay, king's wedding.
Or the prince's wedding.
Prince's
That's
wedding.
what it is. Yeah.
And before he jumps in, Chilchuck says, oh, this looks like a nice party. And look, there's somebody dancing naked over there. We never see anybody dancing naked at all.
No, we don't.
And I'm like, oh, dang it, But we get into this point, and I love this little detail that Studio Trigger puts in the anime in this episode is when Laios is walking around, we see the rope follow him. Like the rope is still attached to him, and like the rope like moves and stuff. and reacts to Laios, which I thought was really cool. Like around like the surroundings in the inside the painting.
Yeah.
Like I like that a lot. I thought that was a really nice little touch. But Laios
Right.
he's gonna grab all this food, and as he's doing it, the king ends up getting
The
poisoned and
Yeah,
dies.
the king and the prince have a toast together, and he gets
Yeah.
poisoned. Yeah,
He's poisoned, he dies, and Laios gets out of there. He's like, "Oh, look at all this food I got!" And he's like, "What the hell? What's going on?"
it's just gone,
It's just gone. It's just gone. Yeah, and he's like, "I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna eat all the food in the next one." So he jumps in the next painting, and he's like, "Oh,
It's
he
the king's the
cor-
prince's
coronation."
coronation
Yeah.
into being the king.
So I have a question. When
Yeah.
he's at the table, is he sitting at the table in the same room that where they're located at this point?
Oh, where they're at in the thing?
Yeah.
No,
No.
because if you go back to the last one, the first picture and the last picture aren't really good details of that, except if you're like knowing that the light's coming in through the window. The second picture really lets us know that it's actually old stuff that happened on the land above.
Okay. Okay. Because my next question is are they in the abandoned castle? You know,
Yeah.
like are they actually in the castle?
No, they're just in a part of the dungeon.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, no, all that stuff actually, like history wise, is something that would have happened like years and years ahead of their time.
Okay. Because they talk about like
Um,
defeating like the Mad King and stuff.
the Mad Mage.
Mad Mage,
Yeah.
yes.
Um,
Which got me thinking, like, oh, is the Mad Mage like the prince? I started having
right.
all these theories.
Well, so we'll we'll come back to that.
Okay,
But I want to point out when he hops into this third one that this dark elf person actually does come up to him.
yeah, and he remembers him.
Remembers him from the previous paintings and grabs a hold of him, and
Yeah,
is going to try and use like a fireball on him
yeah.
almost.
He's like, what are you doing here? Basically,
And Leos did eat his fill. If for anybody
yeah,
that
yeah.
wasn't
All in
knowing,
there, like, he's like, oh, give me more, and they're like, what? Really? You want more? And he like eats
yeah.
all this food and stuff, which
And then it ends up getting out of the
I
painting.
think I
Yeah.
think my theory. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Is the dark elf stuck in the painting?
No.
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 Okay, because he's in the intro too.
No. You kind of, from stuff we've already talked about, you've kind of answered your own question.
Okay.
So the dark elf is the
Uh huh.
the
The
yeah,
I don't know what that is.
which you were just talking about. The dark elf is the
Oh, the dark elf is the mad mage.
yes,
Okay. Okay.
uh,
Interesting.
which is why he's able to get into the pictures and get out and all this other stuff, and why he was one of the only ones that noticed that Laios was in all three of them,
Okay.
which
Okay.
goes into play later on that the Mad Mage is who controls all of the creatures in the dungeon and all this other stuff,
And
and
made the dungeon, obviously.
made the dungeon and is technically, quote unquote, their key for Fallon.
Spoilers.
So yeah.
Well, when he showed up, like I remembered him from the intro. I'm like, okay, he must be important, and he's not
Yeah.
dead. You know, he's not dead like the guy in the previous episode.
Right.
So he's got to come back, and he's got to like stick around and whatnot.
Yeah. So we'll see him in more episodes coming up.
Okay, okay,
And
gotcha.
so we'll particularly know more about him, I think, maybe in either the next one or when we record next for Delicious in Dungeon.
Okay,
But for sure it'll be something after that.
okay, gotcha. So yeah, they Laios has like no luck really because he comes out of the painting and I think he's still hungry, right?
He comes out of the painting and his stomach is flat again.
Yeah, because he
If
didn't
if
really.
you eat anything, if you do whatever, it actually just stays in the painting.
Yeah, that's kind of funny to
Right?
think about.
He's like, how can I have eaten all that food and come back out and still be hungry?
Yeah, and then we go
You want
from
to know what
there.
it really reminds me of, and
What?
you're gonna be like, it's so stupid. It reminds me of the Very Hungry Caterpillar.
I can see that. Yeah,
Like, oh, I ate. Oh no. Oh, I ate. Oh no.
yeah,
But it's funny how it lined up too, like how the three consecutive things had to
uh
go in
huh.
order for this to happen. He went and didn't have an appetite, so we didn't know that the food would stay there. And then the next one, he gets the food, but then it stays there. So then we get the third one, and he goes, "Well, I'm going to eat it all, and it'll stay in my stomach." And then he leaves, and he comes back. So we've kind of gotten it all this time that whatever's in the painting, except for something that came from the outside, is going to stay there.
Yeah,
And so by the time we finally get to the end of him eating, and then like, oh well, like living paintings are actually just bullshit. Like, why would
yeah.
you even, you know,
His
why
plan
would
did
you even
not
do
work
anything
out.
with them? No.
His plan did not work out.
And I thought it was funny that nobody else like tried it, just Laios.
Yeah, man, I think nobody was crazy enough to try it.
Well, that's true too. And the other thing that I question in that is why didn't Kinsuki freak out at all?
Oh, yeah. Did he
Because you
take? Did he take it with him?
had to have. It was on his side the whole
Oh,
time.
okay.
So I mean, that's a little bit of, I feel like, a misconception of like, why wouldn't Kinsuki have done that? Unless maybe it was the presence of the Mad Mage and
Maybe.
Kinsuki didn't felt safe around him. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? But we move on from here, and we
Yes.
do find a good resting place for the next thing. Which this is another one that we get more into a story with Chilchuck, which I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
I think I enjoy the other episodes more whenever it focuses on like one character, because
I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree
because
with that.
then we get like their backstory, and then it comes back to like the regular thing, and we're like already up to date on all that, and then we kind of get to enjoy the story going on. And I think that's one of the things, even like reading the manga, that Delicious in Dungeon does very well in going back and like telling previous stories and then moving forward with itself and doing all this other thing. I think it's one of the manga slash anime that does it very, very well.
I think it does do it pretty well in the anime.
Yeah.
I have to say, because I mean, some manga don't translate well into anime. Sometimes I feel like, but this one
Right.
seems to translate pretty well.
Right.
I would say because I don't feel like bored or like um feel like it's like it's a slog, to
Oh,
get through
right.
these
Well, and
episodes.
it's not fast, like
No, but it seems fast.
I feel like some shonen manga really, like, compared with their animes, seem like
Yeah,
really fast.
yeah,
Oh, well, we're fighting this guy. Oh, well, I spent like 3 books reading that, and then they do it all in one episode, and you're like, what in the fuck?
yeah, something like that. I mean,
So
I don't feel like this is a slog, and and like it seems to be like at a nice, like brisk pace.
yes.
Like I'm not bored at all watching this like show, and I've watched each episode twice.
Right.
So I've watched each episode multiple times so far for this podcast. I haven't been
Yeah.
bored, you know.
I'm still surprised they haven't put out like a fake cookbook on any of this stuff.
Bro, I bet there's a cookbook.
The Delicious in Dungeon cookbook.
I bet there's a cookbook.
Um but yeah, so moving forward we get to like the next one. And they find this room that they're gonna sleep in. It's got some like used area slash like, I guess, an old kitchen thing
Yeah.
that's been used and run down. There's a room right beside it with a fountain in it for fresh water, and then there's another room that when Chilchuck goes to fill up his water skin, that there is a box he's pretty sure is a mimic. He keeps telling us that that's what he thinks that it is.
Yeah, he thinks it's a mimic. He's like, the box should not be there,
Yeah,
or like it should already be like pick through kind of thing,
right.
And
Uh,
Chilchuck ends up leaving because I think the other characters, I think Marcel ends up like picking on Chilchuck.
no,
What?
she's asleep. He has
No,
to
she's
wake
like
her up.
no, she's like picking on him. Picking on him, I think, at one point, and he like leaves. I think.
Oh, when she was talking about the age, and he goes, "I'm just strictly here for
Yeah,
business."
she's like making fun of him and stuff.
Yeah, and then he's not ready for bed yet, so then he goes to the fountain next door,
Yeah,
and he does that, but they don't have anything left over like since she cooked or anything, and he sees another one of those little jewel bugs or
yeah.
a treasure bug in the hallway, and it scurries off to uh
Where the box is,
yeah, where the box is, this third room.
and he goes over there to investigate, like where's this bug going, and he gets
Right.
trapped in this room. He ends up setting off one of the traps. I like the little detail of he normally doesn't set off the traps because he's so light.
Right, yeah. Because he's so light, yeah.
Which I thought was really cool, and like because you're like, oh, you don't think of that, like him being like a halfling or whatever, and he doesn't really set off the traps, but he does because of I think his water like
Yeah, the
weighs him
water
down.
skin.
Yeah, what?
The water skin?
Yeah, the water he has like is weighing him down, and he ends up being right. He finds out that there's a mimic in the box, and the mimic looks like a giant lobster. I
There's so he goes to like a little cupboard,
Yeah,
and the cupboard is in a different area in the room, and he finds out that there's three spots that have these press buttons, and he knows there's one over by this box. Well, he climbs up on this cupboard, and the cupboard ends up being the mimic.
that's what it was.
And the box that he thought was this mimic the whole time actually wasn't. It was a regular old empty box.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Uh,
And it's kind of a terrifying moment, I felt like, for Chilchuck.
oh no shit! That mimic's like almost his same size.
Yeah,
Like, and if anybody like needs to like know what this thing looks like, imagine a like
giant
blue
lobster.
a blue fiddler crab or
Yeah,
something like that, like your kid would have,
yeah.
but the same size almost as one of your kids.
I think it's interesting how he uses the traps in the room.
So I really like how it's interesting compared to like D&D, how the mimic is a crustacean lobster
Yeah.
thing, because in D&D a mimic is like this otherworldly supernatural creature.
Is it like a shapeshifter?
Yeah, it changes into stuff, and then it can basically grow a big mouth and eyes and stuff out
Which,
from different places and then
that's what I
attack.
thought it was going to be.
Right. And it
Uh,
wasn't. So I
like
like
mom, I
the
was like, "Whoop! Here we go again."
yeah.
Just throwing
So
what I know out the window.
I really like how they took liberties of that and
Yeah,
saying like it's more of a hermit crab, you know. So
yeah.
I really enjoyed that liberty that they took with what a mimic was.
hmm I love him like getting through this area by himself, using his wits and whatnot, and using the fact that like with the spike traps and stuff, and like
Flip the box.
flip the box and stuff like that. That was really
Yeah.
interesting to see.
So one thing with this that I'm still confused on though is it was a poem that he recited
Uh huh.
that told him how to hit the buttons, and that's what confused me because I'm like, where did we get this poem from?
Maybe it was on the wall.
Um, I think so. I think it was on there, and he knew it from the coin.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't really remember that too much. I just remember him trying to survive the mimic, and I was like, "Oh man, is he actually gonna make it out of this
Right.
alive?"
Well, and when it was chasing him down and he accidentally hit one,
Yeah,
and the thing came up and got him in the cheek, I was like, no,
I
chill,
was like,
Jack.
ah.
I was
Yeah, but
like, oh
he ends
shit.
up getting out.
Yeah.
He ends up getting out.
Flipping it, and then the mimic ends up chasing him out of that room, and as it does, it hits the lever to close the thing, and it basically has the trap come down.
It
And
impales the mimic.
yeah, I'd almost say it guillotined it, but
Probably.
I think it just really just crushed it. So I don't know.
And then they get food.
Right. And
They get
who
food.
knew? Who knew that a
Who
mimic
knew?
crustacean guy, you could put him in a pot, blue as can fucking be, and boil him until he looks like a crab or a
Yeah, it
lobster.
looks like a big old lobster.
So, and he's orange and red and all this other stuff. I'm like, in what world do colors change and that it means it like that?
I love the scene where they're trying to eat the mimic, and Laios is like, "Oh, I can't get the meat out of here." He's like, "Oh, you got to break it," and he's like, "I love this scene where Senshi is like, hey, you chill chuck, give me one of those pick things,
Give me those
and,
tools.
and give me one of those." He's like, "What? No way!" And he uses it to like pick out the meat from the mimic's leg. Like
Yeah,
Chilchuk was like shocked and was like, I can't believe he's doing this right now with my tools.
right.
Like, oh my god, and that's kind of where this episode ends. What did you think of this episode?
I really enjoyed this episode too. I don't I don't think the picture episode really was, or that the picture part
Uh
was
huh.
really that enjoyable
Uh huh.
at this point. But I do feel like later on that it is something that was needed for us to kind of not go in blindly for like who the Mad Wizard was and some other stuff.
Yeah.
And we kind of got some past history on like how the idea for the dungeon kind of got started as well.
It was almost like two different stories intertwined, you could say.
It was.
Yeah. It's
It
technically like
was.
what, 2 chapters?
Yeah, it was 2 chapters.
Yeah, in one episode. So I think they did a fairly good job of intertwining it,
Yeah.
which some can't even do that. Um,
Right.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun
Yeah.
and whatnot. I liked Chill Chuck getting the main character treatment, I guess you could say, like the rub, him getting his own little episode. I thought that was fun. I mean, Chill Chuck's not like one of my favorite characters.
Oh yeah.
Like, I kind of feel like he definitely plays second fiddle a lot
Yeah.
so far. But I mean, I like this episode. I like to see what he can actually do by himself. He's
Yeah.
competent.
A Marcel would say that.
Marcel would say that.
Yeah, I said a Marcel, because you
Oh.
said that you're a Marcel.
But I really liked the story with the paintings. I thought that was a lot of fun, and it left me wanting more and learning about like the history of what happens, because obviously something happened there, and
Yeah.
whatnot. Something
Right.
happened before this, and I thought that was really interesting, and it kind of hooked me in a little bit. Because, I mean, the only other point of this story is to save Laios' sister.
Right.
That's it. We don't
Right.
have much, like, questing wise and defeating the Mad Mage,
Right.
But getting backstory, I thought was really interesting in
Well,
that point.
and we have gotten a little bit of that stuff already where remember when we were at the part with the orcs and they were talking about, what would you do if you went into the dungeon and got won the prize or whatever.
Yeah.
So I mean we have talked about part of this stuff a little bit,
But it's
but
not
we
like
haven't.
in depth.
Right. And it's not something like just watching this straight out that you'll just automatically know.
Yeah.
somebody could hear that and go, "Oh, well, that's like another like side quest that they can do." And now knowing like it kind of is like part of the story with the Mad Maid, so
Mm-hmm. But
um,
ranking these, what would you rank them?
I would say that the first episode being my favorite, I would probably give it a 5 out of 5.
Okay.
I really like the backstory we got out of all the characters. I really like that we got the weird sherbet thing. Um, while I really don't care for the introduction of the other party just yet, I think the stuff with the jewel bugs was really fun to do.
Yeah.
Um, so I would say a 5 for that one, and then this one is probably a 4.
I do agree with everything that you said.
Yeah,
But I would have to rate the first episode a 4 and probably like the second episode a 4 as well. Like I did really, really enjoy them,
yeah.
but I need more answers to everything.
You're like,
Like
and you can't tell me all the answers because I don't want you to ruin it for me.
and whatnot. I need this to continue. I need an actual story to start building up. I have to
Right,
say. It's cool that we're going on this adventure. We got all these little adventures in this too. Side quests, as one might say, um,
right.
and whatnot.
One might say it's almost like our gotta read them all podcast stuff we
Yeah,
do.
yeah. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, I had fun with it. I can't wait to watch more of it.
Yeah.
But
Well, stay
yeah,
tuned. Stay
stay
tuned.
tuned
You can watch this week's episode. Whenever it comes
tomorrow.
out on Thursday.
Yeah, which I feel like it's thrown this podcast off. To be honest,
Oh,
like
really?
covering it. I mean, yeah, because I have to wait I have to
You
wait
gotta
like a
wait
whole
two
other week.
weeks.
Yeah,
You're like,
uh,
some episodes I watched 3 times in a row, and
to
the other one I only watched twice.
to talk about it.
Yeah,
And I'll forget stuff. And like if I feel like it's better to cover it 2 episodes at a time because we get through it faster. Um, but having it released like so slow, I'm like, oh my god, like come on, like let's go,
right,
let's not have it one episode. Let's do 2 episodes every week.
right.
I mean, I don't know. That's just me personally.
Yeah, I get part of that.
But yeah, but we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Hope you guys enjoyed
Right
this
on the
particular
next
podcast.
episode. Yep. So come back and listen to us, and we'll
And
tell you some more reviews all about Delicious and Dungeon.
give us some feedback on Apple Podcasts or
Right.
Spotify, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Stay safe out there. Hope you're enjoying the podcast.
And see you next Tuesday.